Okay, welcome to Cinekuest Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about a quick review of Candyman. We actually just saw it.
Yeah, the 1992 version. I don't know how we missed that one.
We saw it in theaters.
Yeah, we're bringing it back to you.
Well, actually, that wouldn't be so out of sorts because with the whole pandemic stuff they've been doing,
they've been bringing back
A
a
lot
of
of classics and shit. I'm looking forward to hopefully checking out the Evil Dead. I think they were going to bring that in October.
Sweet.
Supposedly.
Nice.
Anyway,
Candyman. Again, review. Roland, what'd you think of Candyman?
It was a lot of fun. I liked it a lot. I mean, are we doing this like as a sort of a spoiler free, or can we just rattle on over the fuck we want?
Let's try not to give too much away because
so without really giving anything away, this is sort of like
if you're gonna reveal something, I like just
sort of like in the same sort of style as like the old 90s 80s horror movies, in that it's not very complicated. Like, it has all the right little details, to put together a fairly cohesive little story, and they don't tie everything up together, well, nicely, in the end, kind of thing. It just sort of leaves off on a cool little note. One of the things I really liked about it is, and I don't know if this is a common thing that's done in most movies, where they have like well, I'm saying this now, but now that I'm saying it, I think that I guess most of the good movies that do this use this style, or rather, when you see the antagonist, like, you don't see them full on. You see like little like they're off in the corner, or like they're out of focus, and then they have the big reveal at the end.
Oh, sure. And I mean, we just watched the OG Candyman, last night, and I would say that visually and I guess concept-wise, or whatever tropes they want to adopt, are very similar.
Yes, they're similar.
Because the way you like talk about, little flashes of the big bad, and then you finally get the big bad at the end, but for one big, like final kind of payoff, like finally you see the monster or whatever. I'd say that Candyman 92 and 2021 are right in league with each other as far as that goes.
But that's also the fact that, I mean, I heard about the fact that it was going to be a sequel to the first one, but I wasn't aware of how they were going to bring that about.
Right.
I wasn't sure if like the original original Candyman, Tony Todd or Virginia Madsen, were actually going to show up at some point.
Yeah.
But they were referenced.
Williams.
They were referenced.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. I did like that.
What was it? I kind of like this one better than the first one, because of how they, again, like the story, the plot, very, very straightforward, very simple. But like, there are a few little details in there that they threw in that I just thought were really cool. Like, they literally expanded, the mythology behind, or concerning the Candyman.
That's another thing. It being like saying there was going to be a sequel, that I wasn't sure how they were going to tie in the way we saw, I guess, the new Candyman in the trailers to the old Candyman, because I mean, there's obvious differences if you've seen the original and the new one.
This to me,
I was like, they're really not doing it properly. But then I saw the way they
it's like if they tried to well, because so the Candyman like character is very much the same as sort of Freddy Krueger sort of thing, I think, right? Like, he exists in the memories of people, and when they forget about him, he loses all of his power. He has no influence, that sort of thing. And so by word of mouth is how he exerts control and influence over an area or region or whatever. And how does it work here, where I think the difference between the two is that Freddy Krueger's just one person, and in this one, the Candyman is sort of like almost like an idea, right?
This is like a general mythology.
Where he finds his avatars, if you will.
Yes. He's like I really liked a lot of how they
and I was gonna be, if there was a way to pause the movies live, we just had access to like the theater ourselves, like give us a pause button. I was about to go off and bitch about how they retconned the storyline.
Yeah,
but
they didn't.
They didn't.
They didn't
Yeah,
after all. Like they actually like they improved it.
About 15 minutes later, I went, "Oh, okay. Now I'm not mad about this."
Yeah,
yeah. I thought it was kind of interesting because like they give away part of that in the trailer when they talk about Candyman being not one man, he's the hive,
which is the thing I didn't understand.
Exactly.
I'm glad they explained that.
Watching that in the trailer, you just think, "Oh, that's a horror thing." And like, no, actually, there's some interesting details in there that concern that, and so yeah, like when I was telling you before, I checked the Wikipedia article that Tony Todd was going to be in there, and you see all of these other characters in there, and like, okay, this is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. Like, how do they figure? I mean, they do mention him, right, in the beginning of the movie. What was his character's name? I forgot, but he was.
I don't
first.
remember the actual name.
He's the first of, and they talk about.
Well, he's the first they talk about,
right.
But in the line of Candyman or Candymen, I guess he's like number 4 or 5.
The Tony Todd character, I thought he.
No, Tony Todd was the OG one,
right? That's
but they first referenced
is his name Sheldon? Yeah.
Yeah, but like the kind of the enforcer, whatever dude who
he was the most recent.
Gave candy
the guy who was actually giving candy to the kids,
right? Yeah, he was being nice and stuff, and it of course like.
Which I'm glad in the trailer they kind of focus on him because we already know that he's going to be like a central part of that. But then again, bringing up the other hive, the other Candyman as well.
So it was interesting as well. Like there's a lot of undertones, like really really heavy undertones as far as like.
Are undertones heavy? Can they be heavy?
They're subtle though. That's the thing. Like. They're very subtle, but like to me, they carried a lot of weight, and by that I mean when they were talking about like how the cops.
See, I felt that was more blatant than anything. As we talked about after the movie, it really felt that the social justice aspects were really shoehorned in, which is not a bad thing. Which were present in the old Candyman.
Yeah.
But
exactly, that's why I was trying to thought like at first I thought it was just being like just cheesy and stereotypical, like throwing him in there.
Spoiler alert! There's a character that's talking about the myth of Candyman, and just says, Candyman is there to be a voice for our struggle, essentially.
He's like a representation in America of oppression and injustice, right? And so like that was how they sort of. Not coped or rationalized with it.
So I think it's just how the urban legend kind of
distilled all of that.
Yeah, how the urban legend just morphed over time.
Into this fucking horror figure.
Which usually in any sort of mythology, that's how it progresses.
Word of mouth. And mind you, this was a
direct,
truly a direct sequel to this, to the original movie, and 30 years approximately have passed since those events. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool.
I guess the reason I thought they were sort of subtle, yes, they were shoehorned in, but like not overly so. I guess like that's what I was trying to get at. Like they were here, the cops were here, like they had a presence in a few scenes, and then like they only talk about it, once or twice. Like the main.
Well, it wasn't just the cops though. When they had,
right, with the original guy, there was the weren't they? No. Weren't they policemen that came after the first Candyman?
Yes, but it's also, the gentrification discussions
to me
and also in scenes where because apparently once again spoiler alert, but there was like a little kid who became a Candyman, and it reminded me from some of the visuals they had towards the end of the movie where he was kind of like a Medgar Evers kind of figure, and Medgar Evers is a famous black kid from the 50s or 60s who I think 50s who basically got a lynch job done on him because it was said he was whistling at a white woman.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and there's some graphic representation in the film, in the credits, that suggests that they're trying to kind of maybe not directly speak about the Medgar Evers experience, but just that phenomenon, on a grander scale.
I had read some reviews about people complaining about how that like the gentrification, thing was basically a plot, like a very, very shallow plot device, because they wanted them to sort of go into detail about it. Like, well, how the fuck are you going to show that? Like, they literally just, this was the area that was developed in the 70s, and this is what it looked like, and here's it now. Like those buildings are fucking demolished. They're like, there are hipsters everywhere or some dumb shit. Like what are you supposed to go into like that with, by showing all the artists, you know, having an art exhibit or whatever, art show, like even that didn't make any sense at first, like with the art critic going after the main character saying, oh yeah, all these artists came in and like moved into these poor areas, you know, and because they couldn't afford shit. It was like, well, yeah, that's what's how artists do. Like they're poor and broke as fuck.
Put it, you know, so they didn't have the guilt of not having a full-time job or something like that.
Yeah, like, it's like,
it's just so
what
pretty
are you
fucking
talking
funny.
about, bitch? Like, are you kidding me? Any artist would jump at the fucking chance to get a job like that.
But without those
general,
kind of discussions, you know, how do you account for the fact that, you know, this place that was essentially still a ghetto in 1992's Candyman, and now it's a place where there's nice high rises, nice apartments and stuff like that. They had to have some sort
Whole
of
Foods.
So
I think it was the joke.
Yeah, you know, if y'all stick it out for a couple of years, we'll put a Whole Foods in, and you know.
I think that there were just like a few elements that were.
I think that could have been fleshed out a little bit more, actually, so it didn't feel like a cheap plot
I
device.
think that they were just used in a way that sort of just like steered the narrative very, very loose, very, very.
Well, I think if you're gonna bring up a topic like that, like you kind of have to, I guess, put it more in context for folks. I mean, you can't just brush over it because I mean, I felt like that with the characters themselves.
It isn't an easily it isn't a very mainstream concept.
Well, yeah, but I'm also thinking like the characters themselves. Like I feel like they probably could have had a bit more time developing them just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no.
But I mean, like the main characters themselves, like the guy, and like we kind of get his story.
Yeah.
Later on. But as far as like his girlfriend or
like, she gets
so I thought
she gets her time too.
But I thought her backstory was kind of pointless. You know, talking about it like
what I was thinking was going to happen though was
there was going to tie in for their father in some way.
Well, that she was going to become a candy woman,
like in the first.
Yeah, because I mean she's experiencing all that.
Like, because she's had past trauma, current trauma, and then what's interesting, which may have set up for their sequel or whatever, but she doesn't get ganked, you know. Yeah, exactly. So another spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I mean,
but once again, you know, with the going back to your idea of how, you know, once the myth kind of fades or starts to die out, you know, Candyman loses his power, his presence.
Right, and I mean that's also how when he tells her.
So
in the end,
set her up, you know, tell everyone.
Spread the word.
So sorry, there's so many spoilers in this, guys. Like, this was just a really fun movie.
I think the reason, and this is just me trying to figure that shit out. But I think the reason that she survived in the end was because this story was it was a continuation of the first one, and they do tie in, you know, the continuation of that plot, and it comes full circle rather in the end of that. And
do you think that perhaps that she ended up having a righteous cause because they really lean heavily into basically white America versus black America, and how it's a struggle.
So,
but
I don't
the
think
situation she finds herself in, and when she invokes Candyman, maybe Candyman was like, "Oh wait, you're maybe more my herald than a victim."
Possibly.
Like I don't know. So I don't think it's gonna set up. I don't think this is gonna set up a second movie.
I think that would have been the case if the main character had been spared. Like he would, because he was the one that already understood. Like he had all the backstory about how the area developed, and like his own involvement in that. The girlfriend was kind of just like doing her own thing. She was, you know, she's the art curator. You know, like she was focusing, a very career-oriented person. Mm-hmm. And I don't think she was particularly I don't think she had any particular like associations with.
So what's a better call to adventure than that?
No, I agree. Like I actually think that would be a pretty interesting way to have her radicalize. Is that? Yeah. I mean, if there was anything that was gonna fucking do that, it would be that moment. I thought it was such a fucking cool ending, man. I really loved that whole thing. Like, that was really fucking cool. It kind of reminded me a bit more of when we went to watch the Pig movie. Like the characters.
Let's say Pig, not the Pig movie.
The Pig movie. Pig
degrades it in so many ways.
Yeah. What are we talking about? Fucking Police Academy.
So the characters in Pig.
Training Day.
The characters in Pig are not heavily explained, like as to their backstories. it has their personalities are I guess more on show as opposed to this one, where they're not like all the characters they seem fairly shallow, but the reference the reason I like sort of compare that to that is that this movie is like a sort of a day in the life of these people, and these things just sort of happen as they go along.
Yeah. So I mean, there's not necessarily a need to explain it because you are
exactly.
like kind of going through in real time.
Right. Yeah. You're going through this event that's just happening, and it's fucking cool.
We're figuring it out just as the characters figuring shit out as well.
And so it's not needed. It's I mean, like I would.
But that's for that movie. Or are you talking about this one specifically?
So I'm talking about how they compare. That it's a sort of similar narrative to me.
Or narrative structure sort of thing.
Yes, structure. Their structures are somewhat similar, and so that's how I think it's sort of explained away that we don't need too much depth on any of the other characters aside from like the main plot elements, the main guy himself,
So do you think it? So then
I hate them as artists.
Well,
fucking hate them.
Using that
part was like kind of hard to like stomach, like sitting.
It was so irritating.
Listen to the critic
every
talk
time
and
they
then
talk
like
about
the curators and the art dealer and like.
God damn it! I fucking.
So
hate
do you
it.
think then perhaps the background we got from the girlfriend's character was superfluous to the intended purposes of this movie?
I was about to say, like, I think it was completely superfluous. It was interesting to see as, I guess, a framing sort of device.
Well, I felt like I would have given her character a bit more if we had like more backstory on her because she's going through all these traumatic things.
It gives like, some agency to her reactions. You know, to her boyfriend's psychotic breakdown. You know,
or,
it's like
well,
why she
that
reacts
was her
so
brother
strongly.
too, right? So I mean, like he.
Yeah.
Like
he was there to sort of give the
he's a bit of the comic relief in the movie.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But
I mean, as far as like what role he plays,
he was there to provide the context.
Right, but I mean, like he also experienced that as well, and so like, but how is that affecting him or their family dynamic?
I mean, right, absolutely. It must have been some shape or form. Obviously not as strongly as her because he did make the comment like you can't be around like because she was immediately there. She saw what happened to her father when he had his break, and she was also just there in in the
as Anthony starts breaking.
Yeah.
Exactly, and
and she's the one that found like the first victims technically.
Correct. Yes.
Candyman.
Yes. So like she has a lot of very strong reactions to these events, and while I do think it was superfluous, it does sort of add or rather reinforce her mindset sort of thing, like kind of arrangement, because when she recoils initially from I keep forgetting the fucking main character's name. What was
his
it?
name's Anthony.
Anthony, thank you. When she first has her reaction to his breakdown or whatever, you would think she would have been a bit more supportive instead of just sort of brushing him off and be like, look, bitch, stop being stupid. Like, I'm going to prove to you this is fake right now. It's like, that's the worst thing that you can do to someone that is having like any kind of like psychological episode, like you tell them they're wrong. Like, no, why would you do that? Like, you're not necessarily empathize, but like you need to sort of let them go through, the event. And instead, like, she's just like, you're being a dumb bitch. Don't be doing this. And he, of course, reacts accordingly. He screams, breaks the mirror, and she just fucking runs out of there. This sort of gives that a little more leeway, I guess, into why she wasn't a bit more supportive. It's like, because she's had some fucked up things happen to her just like this before. I'm glad that they only gave it like a scene or two to talk about. Like, it was a quick thing, and like, okay, we'll just forget about that for now, and it'll sort of support this later reaction or whatever. But aside from that, no. Like, if they hadn't have sort of handled it that way, it was absolutely unnecessary. It would have been absolutely unnecessary, I think.
I mean, I will go as far to say this, and I'm going to reserve judgment because I've yet to see Blade Runner 2049. But one of our neighbors in Washington, this great guy Rob, he just was like talking about how this is just a great, sequel sort of thing. Typically, when you have franchises that are resurrected after even 10 years, we're talking close to 30 years of, time in the shadows for the Candyman.
I
mention Coming to America too and how terrible that was.
I am always so like me
me
either, but like I'm always of the mind that like old series should for the most part just be left the fuck alone.
Precisely.
You know,
and
like,
so
I don't
what
like
I'm going to
reboots,
say, so
like
reserving judgment because of Blade Runner.
But this is a happy coincidence or a happy accident rather. Like I'm glad it came together in such a nice way.
But the thing is, you have people who are like writing the screenplay and stuff. Like Jordan Peele plus I forget these other two people who actually enjoy the horror genre
like,
and also love the movie Candyman.
When you have the right.
It's not just some asshole like trying to like.
But I'm gonna say this is a perfect sequel.
But the thing is, that's the norm, dude.
When you have a huge swath of time separating, you know, the franchise.
Right.
Perfect fucking movie. I felt completely satisfied by this. I wasn't angry about anything. The stuff I was angry about because I thought they were retconning in weird ways. They fixed those in the movie. Or not fixed them per se, but
I did think that
adjusted for.
Right.
But yeah, I'm gonna go out and say this is a perfect fucking sequel. You know, considering the time gap between these two films.
But they it played into the original stories so well. Like again, I went in worried, a little worried about how they were gonna even.
Are we referencing everything?
Referencing everything, but like I'm glad how they integrated that original story into this one.
Oh
and I was like, that's fucking great.
And what's great is that there's a super great payoff from 92 Candyman to 2021 Candyman, where you have, and so not a huge spoiler, but so the character Virginia Madsen played, Helen. You know, when she was interacting with Candyman, you know, he was telling her how, you're going to become legend as well. You know, people are going to talk about you. And she became an urban legend in her own fucking right.
Yeah,
and what's cool is that you see a twisting of the story.
Yeah.
And then from the, you know, the conception of the community members, perception of the community members. But then you get the actual fucking story later, which is what played out in the movie. And so it's just, there were so many payoffs, like for some lines of thought that were invoked in the OG Candyman that played out in the new version. And it's just fucking perfect. I loved this movie. It was really fun.
I don't know. I was trying to figure out if Clive Barker was consulted or included in any of this at all. I know for the most part, they loved, you know, the original story that he wrote. They loved the first movie and he was involved with that. What sort of struck me about
I like how they did like pay some sort of tribute because the guy who works in the laundromat is reading Weave World by Clive Barker.
Which I fucking love that book. I don't know if you guys have checked it out. It's
No, I've read Zero Barker.
It's kind of like I don't know, like I've read a lot of Clive Barker, but I think it's one of the only books that he's actually written that's like a fantasy fiction. A straight up fantasy.
I don't know,
most
but
of the
maybe
stuff he does
Thief
is
of
like,
Always might be one as well. Like
I haven't read that
fantasy.
yet, so I wouldn't be able to say. But it sort of makes me think of like when fucking Stephen King wrote the Dark Tower series. It was just like, this is not necessarily within his wheelhouse, but it's still very cool and very good. I actually I have a copy of Weave World around somewhere. But what I really liked about this is that it did sort of remind me a bit of like of Clive Barker's stories, and in the same in that same sense, the first one, where you know the characters that start out as the like protagonists, the main characters, end up becoming like a part of the mythos. They become a part of the like I guess the supernatural, the legend or whatever. And this did pretty much the same thing in the sequel, which is cool. Because like just like how you said, like Helen becomes the she sort of becomes the one note killer or whatever the end, but like in a way that brings I guess brings her justice.
Well, which is interesting though, because
this was kind of in the same way though, like in the end with.
So did in the '92 version of Candyman, were his designs for Helen actually to his detriment?
You mean Candyman's designs for Helen?
Yes. So
yes,
because she became an urban legend,
became immoral without him.
But there was no Candyman association.
Almost in spite of
that's
him.
true. Yeah.
And so that like kind of like screwed up his plans of like always being a present power, fear, whatever he designed.
I mean, like
or
directly,
Reaper
yes. Indirectly, I'd say no.
Do you think like
she still becomes a part of his mythos? She has the hook hand, you know, like.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, people remember Helen, but people don't remember Candyman. Well, so it diluted the myth.
That's where it gets like integrated, though. Like you said, like she gets the hook and stuff like that. Yeah. But like at some point or another, she in their own version of Helen, like she's just a crazy white person that came in and fucked up with this neighborhood.
You mean in for the sequel?
For the sequel, yes, not in the original movie.
Yeah, so
the sequel.
Once again, like how the myth, how myths, change and transform over time.
I wouldn't say it was a dilution. I would say it was more of like a synthesis, maybe of the, because the thing is, she herself is a reference to the original sort of thing. Like you can't see that hook hand and be like, well, where the fuck did that come from? Actually, the
thing is that
sublimated or whatever the original.
As the myth of Helen got unveiled, I mean, it was only stated that she used a hook.
It makes sense. Okay, yes, I would say it makes sense that eventually
it was inspired by like the Candyman myth that she went nuts or whatever.
I guess I would say yes and no, because like what you're saying makes sense actually, that like as any myth goes, like it changes over time and things are forgotten from the original. The only argument I can say to that is again that like I think those are very strong references to the original that might not necessarily be forgotten, but it could happen. You're right. Yeah, it could absolutely change in that.
And there's
in that way.
And just the only bit of the movie where I was not totally on board with, because it was just a quick left turn out of nowhere, where you have basically Anthony's ObiWan. Have his little like left turn his character took, and it just didn't seem to really add up, like what his intentions and why.
Yeah,
because it was this is what I actually want to talk to you guys about after this, over lunch or whatever. Just because if I remember, because it's just something that just kind of stuck out to me. To go, okay, that's really fucking neat, but like, where did you want to go with this in the original cut?
What are his motivations behind?
Yeah.
Like, is this one thing like because you think he's just kind of there to kind of like you said, like he's kind of just giving backstory to everything, and he's like the person, like almost like a narrator himself, and like at some point he does like a left turn, and I was like.
Yeah,
why? Like,
precisely.
And it almost seems just like a reason to just like
the laundromat
get the story, get the story going in this opposite direction. So they needed something. So he just almost seemed like just the person to, just get him to do it, and then he's just kind of like. Is he someone who's like trying to continue the myth and stuff like that?
Yeah,
like,
and then it's
you're talking about the laundromat guy,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Was the book?
That's what I thought.
Was him reading Clive Barker inspired him? Like, I don't know. Like,
so I sort of thought it had been explained in the end, where the what was the laundromat guy's name? Whatever the fuck. It wasn't explained in the end.
But when he invokes, now we have a witness.
Yes.
And that term witness can be is multivalent, depending you want to go like religious with it or just, matter of fact, like they saw this, they can confirm this. And so it could have gone in either direction, and the route they took just didn't like kind of add up, particularly when they revealed a little piece of his backstory that made him truly believe the myth.
So
because he was the kid.
Yeah, he was the kid, right? But the reason that I think it sort of explains it in an interesting way for him is because when he talks about in the beginning of the movie that Candyman isn't a guy, like he's the hive, he's this representation of all of these issues that they as a persecuted society endured. And that's what I was remembering back to when he was talking about how there always needs to be, a Candyman. There needs to be like this, he needs to be here, the sorts of things. Like that's what I thought he was.
Yeah, but that didn't really add up with the whole because
it doesn't explain when he becomes like a convert or whatever.
Well, no, like even just with his logic, we need a Candyman to right wrongs essentially.
Right.
But Candyman just goes after
exactly. He seems indiscriminate.
People that invoke him and fuck their lives up either by directly killing them or putting them through a psychological mind fuck.
That did seem a little hokey because, like, yeah, Candyman in the first movie is not a fucking like social justice warrior.
Well, like he's just revert back to like, for instance, that scene in the bathroom with those girls. Like, when they invoke Candyman, is it like, do they get their comeuppance because they bully that?
Because they're all racist as fuck, right? You know, like they all say the N-word, hard R.
Yeah, like, they were fucking with that girl.
No, they were
drunk and stuff.
So I actually liked that scene because what it reminded me or made me think back of was just like, just classic horror. You know, like he's still a slasher. He still goes around and fucks people up.
But
kind of thing.
That also that
I
one
don't
scene
necessarily think that there was
the kid like trying to talk to his sister in the restroom. Like, why did she?
Yeah, why were they necessarily? You know,
I don't know. Like,
they were just slightly dickheads. But that's a younger sibling.
I think the kid just fucking went crazy as far as that goes. And that like Candyman is again like how I was, comparing to Freddy Krueger. Okay, he's not this fucking like.
So I guess we're just gonna get spoiler alert. But after he sees what he sees, and when he says now we have a witness, is it because I thought it could have gone in the direction of now we have someone that can provide tangible proof, like we have an eyewitness, and then we're gonna invoke Candyman and. Like it's demonstrate that it actually like Candyman actually exists,
right?
Versus the weird, culty direction that they went. Which
think that he
didn't make a whole lot of sense, but maybe I'm not that smart.
I think he meant it in the sense that like, he wanted like a sort of literal.
We're gonna make you a witness of this,
right? Like of the literal like embodiment of Candyman. Like he's real, he's a thing. And
but then what was his plan to have like the new avatar of Candyman, Ice?
That chick, I think it was probably. Well, or no.
But then what would the point of that been?
No. Like I misspoke. Like she would have been the witness. Like just like he called the cops. She would have been there to like testify. Like this crazy shit happens or whatever the fuck and whatnot. If anything, he probably would have himself been killed.
JordanPeele, would you please hit us up about us?
So
hey Jordan.
I think that guy was like very much an outlier to like the general Candyman mythos in that like he took he took some interesting but different ideas from what seems to me like was contrary to the fucking character from the first movie. Like again, like I think he was like Freddy Krueger, and he indiscriminately anybody that summons him gets fucked. But in the same aspect or whatever, like I also think that, which again lends to the girl surviving in the end, that the story from the first one is sort of coming full circle in this one, and like Candyman's goals or whatever were he had actual sort of agency or rather purpose in this one you
think maybe because like she's like becoming like a prominent person in her field that she would be a perfect person to kind of like
spread
the word.
Sure. I don't know if that's like a happy coincidence
necessarily. But then she was gonna die in a bonfire.
Wait, what?
Are we talking about the original or the
No,
I'm talking about the new one.
He's talking about the girlfriend.
All right.
On the new one. No. Like it's kind of tricky.
There's a lot of questions regarding this movie. I mean, like nothing is like just cleanly explained.
Yeah, it's not because there's a lot of stuff they hand you, but there's a lot of stuff
it's not in a way that I think is stupid in any way. Like they're all very interesting little like theories and like almost like stories to themselves.
Yeah, but really just where that kind of like cultist kind of approach occurred, like it just felt like there was like a weird departure in the film. Even though it came back around and corrected itself, but just that's the one like just glaring thing where it's like this doesn't make sense.
If you included him in the main narrative, like the way I'm talking about, like he's got his own little story, and everyone else has their own little like I guess sphere of involvement that they sort of overlap here and there, as the movie goes along. But for the most part, like he's the one crazy on his own. And ends up just like coincidentally, like sort of providing the outlet for fucking Candyman to sort of.
Well, I think that guy would have probably done that with anybody who showed up, because it was.
I mean,
because it's not like
yes,
he had to jump over. So Anthony had to jump over a fucking fence to get into this like barricaded off area, and you have this one guy who's there is like, hey, you know, looks like he's the fucking handyman for the property, but he fucking works way the fuck else somewhere else. And
I would agree, but
maybe he'd been like watching him this whole time,
or just camping out. Like because that would make sense. But
do you think that he was in contact with the Candyman?
Yeah,
he was kind of like giving him like messages or something.
Perfect sequel. And Jordan Peele, you have my permission, as much as it is worth, to take you and your buddies, write a script for a follow-up film, and try to address some of these grander questions. And you could fuck it up. I just want some answers. That's all. Like, I just want to know how this plays out.
That would be cool. I like that idea.
I mean, if you just want to contact us also, you can do that.
Yeah,
and we'll be fine with that also.
I'd go from 6 to midnight real quick. You know, that was off camera, so I'll do it this way. Boop.
I think that would be a cool little detail if like that, the crazy guy, had like a little hand mirror or whatever the fuck, and he's like talking to himself every so often, and you'll hear Tony Todd's voice whispering to him, that kind of shit.
Find
for the
my
most part, yeah,
child.
Like,
that's the one thing I missed.
Like,
primarily about for this movie was like those the voiceover,
but again,
like Tony Todd.
We can't know because of the way this movie was shot and directed. It was just like this thing fucking happens.
They make up for that though.
Yeah, they do.
Time,
yeah, I mean, I was happy when I heard it.
But yes, I was hoping that the main protagonist ish dude would have been as haunted as Helen was.
Yeah.
But then again,
not?
Because he was kind of just like almost like following her in a sense. Like she was, remember, like she'd like even through that parking garage, like you hear him talking.
He would just show up and he would just
there.
tell her different shit versus just this guy investigating.
I'm gonna come kill people and like.
Well, yeah, but he starts hallucinating or whatever Candyman, or Sherman, like in the elevator and the critic's house.
But Helen got fucked with in similar ways like that as well. But there were other moments where it was more innocuous almost, where just a figure and then there's an ominous line spoken,
right.
And then she goes, "Well, what the fuck?" And there was also, spoiler alert. No one's blaming Anthony for these fucking murders that are happening around him versus the case of Helen. So I thought that was a bit
weird. More indirect, I guess, as far as that goes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have given a lot of spoilers for this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot. Sorry, guys, but
sorry.
I just have a lot of questions I'm trying to flesh out because I was thinking about this on the drive over. And it's like,
what do you have any like favorite parts that you can think of in your head that you maybe like something that was a bit more memorable? I'm gonna say this real quick. I did have a bit of a problem with a certain death scene that was kind of panned a little further out.
Oh, you
mean
it
seemed a little CGI? I didn't like. I didn't like that too much.
I laughed at that. I thought it was goofy looking. I liked it, but I was just like,
it wasn't too good. I didn't
like
that one at all.
No, like it should have been much closer.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could have had more. I don't know why they panned out for that.
They could have handled that way better, and it would have been awesome. Actually, like 10 feet away from the window, like you see fucking Anthony leave, and all of a sudden she fucking floats up and boom.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the kills are concerned, I did like most of them, probably except for that one.
And that was kind of shitty CG, actually. Like she looked really kind of goofy, like ragdolly, like rubbery. It was like watching.
I'm trying to think
like watching Matrix Revolutions or something.
Why they had to go so far? Maybe it looked like that because they got to like make like a small.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Computer generated version of that.
Oh, so that's why they had to zoom out. They weren't able to like afford it. It wasn't in the budget.
No, I'm pretty sure it was, but I'm just saying like I think they did that action, but like they had to make it so small that it didn't look too real because they had to like make actual movements that look like you have to be able to see the movements and shit from far away.
So they kind of came a little was done from
but that could have been handled like
purposely
with practical effects.
Or done with purpose where as they scale out, even
because
though it looks kind of bad,
but it was like an outro.
It ends the scene, but it also shows kind of the. I thought that was a commentary on the big city and stuff, where you have like one of your neighbors being brutally murdered, and you see all these fucking apartments around them, and they're just living their life or whatever.
I'm totally fine with the shot. I just didn't like the way they executed the.
I would have liked it if it had not been like the outro to that.
I feel like
scene.
They could have done it better.
I think it should have been it should have been a moment that they could have focused a bit more on, and it would have been cool as fuck, because like watching it, you know, yeah, it looked a little goofy, but like I did still like it, like seeing how, you know, they just fucking lift her up and then gutter and all that shit. Like that was that I thought that would have been really cool to see a bit.
What about you, Daniel? You got anything?
Yeah, can't really throw in spoilers, but when Anthony was hammered at the art exhibit, I thought that shit was fucking funny as hell.
It's got some good humorous moments in this movie.
Really,
we did laugh out loud.
Yeah, that was really funny. He just went from like 0 to drunk and like sassy as fuck in like 5 seconds.
And it was just it was hilarious.
But I mean, like he was being heckled or whatever, like I don't know, passive aggressively by that other guy there telling him, where did you? These are found objects, you know, like what, you know, this other
did you find
asshole,
some like thrift store. Or
yeah,
exactly.
Like he's like, yes, in my studio where I painted these, you fucking idiot. You know, like get fucked, man. Like you're trying to sound artsy or whatever, like the rest of these morons, and you just come off like a dick. My favorite scene was the end though. Like I loved the big reveal. I love how fucking Candyman like
that walk around the car, that was brilliant.
That
showing
was so cool.
the various avatars through time. That was fucking cool.
I liked how like they show this fucking like they indirectly show this fucking massacre, you know, like through the eyes of the girlfriend, and then the cop in the front seat, you know, runs off, and then the fucking big reveal at the end. Like that whole segment, like I fucking loved it. It was fucking cool as fuck, and I knew like, oh, this is the end of the movie. Like they're gonna cut it. Yeah. Perfect.
I'm glad they didn't drag it on any further than that.
No, yeah, exactly. Right, no, like perfect. That's why I was thinking like it was just like a fucking callback to like old horror movies where it's like, oh, this shit happens, the end, we're done. You know, like you don't need anything more. This is some fucked up stuff.
I recalled Dawn of the Beast, you know, and like those multiple endings that it had, and how many times that shit should have ended.
So much.
But I'm so happy that it didn't do that. It just ended.
No, yeah, this was perfect. Like it was very well done. I really liked this movie, even though like, I mean, I personally didn't like certain things about like the whole fucking artist arc or angle or whatever. But that's just personal. Again, I can't stand that shit.
But wasn't that like Helen was was she like a professor? I don't remember.
No, she was like a grad student or of some sort. I'm not sure, master's or PhD level.
Right. But she's doing like research and shit like that.
But the thing is, they were talking about sociology, I think, in '92, and then there's a fancy term called semiotics, which I am not.
And I haven't heard that one in a while.
I don't know what the fuck that is. I know I think I've looked at it once upon a time because it was like some fancy shit I was reading in grad school that I didn't understand. And I was like, well, what is this semiotics bullshit? Because when you get the file on her, it says something about like Department of Semiotics or whatever at UIC.
So I would like to. I would like to end
hokey.
This, but let's give our ratings for this review. Daniel, I'll let you go first for out of 5.
It's a 5 fucking. Don't have a clever thing. 5 hooks. I think this was a perfect sequel, particularly considering how far removed these tellings were, and having a completely different set of folks behind them. Right. Like, I think perfect fucking sequel. Great movie. Like, really.
Roland?
Yeah, no, I really liked this movie. I thought it was well shot, fairly well written, and directed. So I'd probably give it the same, just a 5 out of 5. I was gonna say Wicker Man's, but
Wicker Man's, what the fuck?
Because like every time I saw it in there, I was like, not the bees. I wanted to scream that shit. It was so fucking funny. All
right, I give you that. Wicker Man, that's good.
Ish,
that's good.
You know, it's because somebody had to take the hooks. So
all right,
I was pressured.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5, and I'm only giving it that half point demotion because of those little things that I had wrong with the movie, like technical things, maybe certain characters or the story, the way they're developed and stuff. But they're very minor. I did enjoy this movie a lot, and I did like how it tied everything from the original together. I really want to go back and watch the original again, and then watch this one right after that to kind of just see how it plays out. I would like to do that whenever that does. The movie actually does come out or is available on DVD or Blu-ray. I will probably purchase this to add to my collection because I really did like this. But yeah, I mean, say 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5 for me.
I was gonna say, Mr. Peele, Ray does not represent the opinions of MoQuest writ large. We apologize for his nitpicking, but overall, generally, it was a fucking.
Well,
cool
technically,
movie.
I mean, Jordan Peele did help write this movie, but he didn't direct it.
No, he didn't. It was directed
and I'm
by,
gonna say this: I never gave a review for this.
It was directed by Nia DaCosta.
I saw Us, and that was a Jordan Peele movie.
Yeah.
And that one was like a 3 out of 5 from me. So I mean,
this bitch again.
Did you see it?
No.
And shut up. What the fuck are you talking about? Shut up.
That never stops me.
So again, if you like this review and you can like comment below and stuff like that. You can subscribe somewhere over there. If you want to support us in any way, click any of the links down below. You can buy a t-shirt. You can subscribe or share this with people. That'll help. We'll have more reviews and more trailers. In fact, we did have a trailer reaction to the actual trailer to Candyman, which is on our channel as well. So you can go back and check that out.
Yeah.
It'll probably be around here or something. I don't know.
And you never put those things in.
Which ones?
Like links to earlier stuff or whatever. You know, like I was like, oh, put a subscribe button here, and they never go in.
That's a part of the charm.
Well, no. I do. I put those in there. I do.
I guess I stopped paying attention.
I mean, I don't put them that many. I don't put them like a lot. Like they're just like sitting there.
Well, no, there was one that we did recently where it was like, you know, we're literally gonna like put it like here or whatever, and there's nothing.
I just laugh at that shit. I mean, it's like, hey, look, man, we tried.
There'll be a few subscribes. Like here, right here.
We're working on that.
We'll wait to see how they don't come out in the final cut.
We get more fans,
right? You know? There'll be a subscribe, and then you can follow our Twitter on this side, and you can follow our Instagram on this side. I'll do it. I promise.
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna fucking happen.
And I'll put a link to our Patreon right above here.
Yeah.
So
we have a Patreon.
There's no link to a Patreon. You just like see what it is, and then
and then think about it. You know,
I don't know how to do that yet.
Mail us a check. mail a check to
a check.
I don't know. Hey, it's better than nothing. All right,
money order.
Better. Than Jesus Christ.
Shit can't bounce.
Good point.
So again, subscribe and notifications and all that nonsense. Comment below, see what you thought about this movie, because you'll probably get maybe one or a half comment. That's fine, you know, whatever. So yeah, Candyman.